Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today we have with us Mario Bekes. I hope I pronounced your last name correct because I always like to ask to make sure in the beginning, but I didn't do it yet. So is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Bekes. You know, because I'm coming from the different part of the world, and we have all these funny signs in our alphabet. It's pronounced Bekes, but Bekes or Bekes. It's fine with me. Yes.
Okay. Bekes. No, I love to pronounce everything.
Bekes, yeah, Bekes. Yes.
Bekes.
It's a Hungarian surname. Yes. Yeah.
So, Mr. Bekes, tell me, where are you right now? Then, where are you calling in from?
I'm fortunate enough to be talking to you from the Sydney, Australia. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll be precise, 8:15 in the morning. And I'm on that side of the world, apart, where you are in Canada. So yeah, I'm in Sydney, Australia at this very moment.
So you are enjoying summer.
It is summer. Look, when I arrived in Australia in 98, it was a big difference for me. I arrived in November, which is clearly late autumn, beginning of the winter back in Croatia. And suddenly coming to Australia with everybody's nice and short sleeves and enjoying the summer. And I was like, are we living on the same planet? So summer, it's beautiful in Australia. I must say Australia has one of the most acceptable environments. It's never too cold. There's no snow in Sydney, as you know, which is a blessing. And the summer is beautiful here. Yes, it is. Now it's a summer, which I presume it's your where you are. It's a winter now, right?
Winter, yeah. We just keep having snow here, and today we had a lot of rain, so it looks like the snow is gone. But we've been getting a lot of rain as well recently. Temperature has been odd. We had a very nice +15, +17 day, and it was exciting in December, right? But the kids wanted snow, but just around December 23rd, 24th is when we had a big batch of snow. So everything was, white, right? So they were happy. So I always like to kind of start the episode or the interview by allowing the guests to kind of introduce themselves in their own words, Mario. So I'll give you the stage, please.
No, thank you very much. I'm truly privileged and honored to be on your podcast. I must say, it is not every day that I have opportunity to talk to somebody with your profile, with a number of people who is following you, and your social media speak itself, which gives me true privilege to share my humble story with your listeners. And I'm very, very grateful for this. A part of, we all have this life story. I'll start from the end. I consider myself at this very stage of my life, and I'm 49, as an ambassador and activist for humanity. One saying that my life was a little bit different than anybody else. I was born in communism, hardcore, in a typical workers' family, where the alcohol was a primary source of happiness. And my parents decided when I was 14 years old, on Christmas Eve, 1986, to kick me out of the home because they couldn't feed me. I was, all these excuses. And I was fortunate enough that my grandfather, who was at that stage in communism, was a highly positioned intelligence officer in Yugoslavia. He took me under his wing and he sent me to further education. And as a life is always unpredictable, you will agree with this. We never know what's going to happen tomorrow. I always say to people, be careful what you wish for, because I always want to be the soldier. And somehow I found myself in military school, and then civil war broke out in Yugoslavia, as most of the people know. 1991, I was 18 years old. My parents, they disappeared overnight. They just left me a message, we are okay. I didn't saw them for 3 years. And I found myself in the midst of the civil war for independence of Croatia, pushing that career for 8 years in military. Eventually, I wanted to step out of that environment, first being in combat 5 years and, being several times wounded, injured. Then, in military, I'll call this security services. Then I've been transferred into the foreign affairs, which was, again, something new for me in terms of being part of 007 lifestyle, I will say.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have nothing to do with that, right? It's like it was a very difficult choice for me to leave my home and being sent in Australia. Prior to this, as you know, in diplomatic intelligence, it's a lot of education, a lot of trainings, a lot of security checks. And, I learned about being accountable, responsible, because I was an individual representing my state. And instead of talking, my state told me, if something goes wrong, we don't know you. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make sense. But, 28 years old, you believe in everything. However, I fall in love in Australia. I got a kid. And I decided to stay in Australia. But, the tragedy of life it is that I believe at that stage of life owes me. And my first job was a cleaner in hotel. And, I was representing all misery of this life because I blamed everybody for my choices, why I'm doing this. But as the life progressed slowly, step by step, and I always say, we don't know what tomorrow brings. I found myself in corporate world a few years later. Then the GFC comes, another challenge. Then my marriage goes down, my kid was become very ill. And then I decide to do something very extreme. And that is to come back to the roots and take the ownership of my problems. Stop blaming everybody, accept responsibility for everything what I do. And I started my own business inside intelligence group, which performing investigative intelligence, investigations, analysis, and, humble beginnings. And, today I can say, thank you, everybody who, told me I cannot do it.
Yes.
And today it's a beautiful opportunity to be in this country, Australia, which gave me opportunity to become who I am. And the most importantly, today I've been interviewed by you. And as I say, life is full of rewards and full of lessons. And if we don't learn the lessons, and on that part, all these lessons I learned in my life through the war, through the diplomatic environment, ups and downs, I decided to share my knowledge with the broader public, those who are interested, to learn that doesn't matter what obstacles we're facing in life. We are those ones who make choices, you're product of choices. And I wanted people to learn lessons from me, which I pay dearly, and as I say, in many aspects, like everybody else, but I have some harsh environment. And that's who is Mario Bekes. Today, I'm a managing director of Inside Intelligence Group. I'm the proud author of the several books. And, being the part of this podcast is actually highlight, for this year now. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. We're ending the year very nicely then, right? So
indeed. So I'm thankful. Yes.
No, thank you so much. I'm grateful to you to take the time, to come on the show and to honor us with your presence and talk about all this, because the more impact we can give the world, the better, right? And then, you can hear the struggle, the story. But my first question that comes to my awareness is, are you reading my mind?
No, I don't. I wish. I think sometimes, I learned one thing, on Intelligence Academy. I recently spoke to several people here, and we like it or not, we love it or not, we live binary life. And I do remember this lady when she walked into the classroom, 1987. She comes and she says, this is how we do the mind control. And I was like, really? How? And I could understand very clearly that, it's not what I'm thinking, reading the mind. But we live in the binary code. Whatever we do everything in the numbers. And, everything what we creating, it's in the numbers, statistics, analysis, and everything else. There's certain needs people have, but people have a certain desires, and it's all represented in numbers. So how do you control somebody's behavior? That was a subject, intelligence field. It's to tap into that code of the binary of the numbers, because at the end of the day,
Data.
We all data. Yeah, we are all walking data storages, not just the clouds or computers, but we are all. So no, I don't read your mind, but I now wish, because I'm very grateful that I'm on your show. So yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mario. You're amazing. Thank you for coming. Like I said, mentioned, this is the first time I've ever tried going live.
Yes.
And you're the first guest on this doing it live. And,
thank you.
I'm not even sure how it's going to be out there for people.
It's going to be
we'll find out after. Well, I mean, I don't know if the technology is working right now, but hopefully it is. We'll find out after the interview, but it should be live. It's showing me that it's live. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. Now,
you're welcome.
I was just joking about the mind reading. Like, this is my second interview with someone from the intelligence world.
Okay.
And I know the interviewing aspect of your job. It can be quite dynamic. You guys are very much trained in dissecting and finding out information, right? So it's a really, really amazing skill, especially in business.
Yes.
Has that helped you in the success that you have seen in your business so far?
Yes, indeed. Look, I truly believe that, when I started my business, and, I need to stipulate this again. I believe at that stage the world owes me. And once when I realized that I losing everything because of my choices, I try to understand why this is happening to me. And I remove myself from what's called pre-mortem analysis, which most of the companies disregarding and business owners when they start a business, or you can call predictive analysis. And that's what it is, that you take a theory of what worst possible can happen. You have 3 situations, and then you drill those 3 situations, or 5 or 6, whatever it is, and try to find what's the worst can happen if you start doing something, based on your plan. Mm-hmm. And being intelligence field helping me quite a lot, a lot to analyze the market, to analyze competitors. When I was working, it was called then Directorate 7 of the Foreign Affairs, which basically I was individual being sent by my government across the 7 seas, the 7 mountains, and you are accountable for all actions you have. And then when I stepped into the civilian life, I would say, I disregard everything, all these teachings and lessons and education, because I believe I know everything. And when I started my own business, I realized that 2 things. I need to come back to the basic, like in photography, which is a light, and in the business, it's intelligence fold. It can be very cruel when you work in government sector, because after all, you're the one of the few operatives on the field, and you're somebody who needs to provide accurate information flow. Sometimes it's being requested by your superiors to provide those informations, which even you can access, but they don't care. You need to find a way. And secondly, in a business, it helped me quite a lot to deliver better results for my clients. You see, I live in Australia, in a multicultural country, where I'm very grateful because you can learn. Everybody has different modus operandi. I believe people in Canada think differently, right, about fraud or about, which we investigated. So I brought my knowledge, my experience personally to my clients. They can see it, they can hear it, what I learned in communism and what I learned in the system I was working for almost 15 years, government sector. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it is intelligence. It's very challenging. For one reason, I used to be catching myself, you're living the lie, because it's imperative to protect your identity, to protect your lifestyle, those who you love. So when you work in the government sector, everything's become very simplified. I'm just a cab driver, I don't know nothing, and, you remove yourself. When you're in corporate sector, when I started, I was a different situation. I was very proud to share my knowledge, my experience, so my clients can improve their policy procedures, they can get competitive edge, and they can adapt or just apply my expertise for their benefits in combating crime, fraud, or any type of the activities which is goes against company policy procedures.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's like a custom plan based on the company, right? The corporation.
Yeah. Look, the world is merciless, and you will agree with me that past 2 years proved that corporations across the globe, they heavily rely on one resource of products or services, storing the data. The global supply chain has been disturbed. And as I say, in intelligence field, when you're doing analysis of some information, we used to be adopting that approach, pre-mortem analysis. Everybody's familiar with that terminology, post-mortem, from movies like when somebody died and everything else. But pre-mortem analysis was very important, and that's what the corporations was lacking, particularly when it comes to investigating crime or fraud. It is very difficult and challenging, when you try to share your knowledge in environment which is not accustomed to that thinking. So sometimes they will say to me, how do you know these things? And it's like, well, I just learned, a long time ago, and this is the way how we did. So intelligence is necessary for all of us, Information is the most valuable commodity in business. In life, that's a time, but in business, it's information. And it's not everything what we see and hear, it's truthful. Because what we forget in most of, I see that around me, is to check the source validity and the information reliability. That's mean it's not important who says, but it's important what has been said, because the words itself becomes the weapons. If you put enough emotions into words, they become the weapons. And if you bite on that emotional side of your brain, on that information, it's going to be sidetracked, and you're going to do bad decision-making and poor judgment. So that's where I'm stepping in and try to educate and train the business world and corporations how to dissect that information. Not the person.
No, not the person. I hope not. But
yes,
when obviously no software, no artificial intelligence could replace the experience what you have, for example, by finding that information. But as you're aware, they're becoming quite intelligent, right? Artificial intelligence, right? So where do you find yourself in the future when it comes to these things that are going to come out with data analysis that's going to be artificial intelligence, and to bring the information out to the surface from that data? How are you going to differentiate from that?
There is always going to be need for information. And I'll just go 10 years back.
Okay.
The world remember the Arab Spring uprising. They called Arab Spring uprising because there's been related to the Prague uprising terminology. And recently I published some articles on that topic, artificial intelligence and information. What's happened in 2010, instead of going to details, some of the sellers, he burned himself, and revolution started, but didn't start in social media, which is artificial intelligence. It's been instigated. However, the governments, Libya, Egypt, and Syria, they shut down the internet network. But yet information was being transferred from person to person faster than fire, faster than speed of light. Why? Because we all have the need to talk to each other. And, Arab Spring uprising actually showed how the governments actually, they're weak because they're controlling that sector, right, of the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will analyze the data. But again, come back to the point where I said to before. Artificial intelligence will analyze what is tangible, what is being placed on social media, on any domain.
Yeah.
But it can analyze the thoughts. Arab Spring uprising, apologies, it was a fire. People go to the mosques, they talk. People talk to family, they talk. So that information, you see, when you go on the ground zero, that's a humans, us. That's where the source information is. What goes on social media, artificial intelligence analyze. And there is no software who can predict behavior of the humans in that accuracy if you don't confirm. Now, move the war on terror or move, let's go say now, the COVID situation. I don't know how it's in Canada, in Australia, but people are still talking to each other. So the information doesn't go just on a social media, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's going to take a big component of the business world. I would say still going to keep about 80 to 85%. Absolutely. But yet, if you want to verify the source of information, because, you know, you will agree, you and I have the now interview, but before this or after this, we're going to talk, right? But that source information, that's a source information. You and I are going to talk about how successful was it being live now on a Zoom, right? But, you know, artificial intelligence can't analyze this. So you still need a presence on the field, on the ground zero, which is,
yes,
you know, amongst the people and everything else, you know what I mean? Yeah. So 85% of William.
Sorry?
I say 85% artificial intelligence is going to take it that still
need that input.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be talking after the show. This is like, this show is my number one source for new friends. Like, this is how, literally, this is how I keep like growing like friendships. Do this show, like literally, like this is, you meet someone, you connect, not everybody, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
So you connect and then boom, you're engaging with each other, social media, you know, if something happened, event happened, I went to Florida, someone invited me, you know what I mean? Like it's a very amazing way.
Because you see, you have the purpose. You see, this is the beauty of everything. Once when the person finds the purpose in life, and this is what I like about people like yourself and our mutual friend being introduced. We are all exploring, you know, we're all explorers in some shape or form. And once we meet new people, we're learning new skills. Once when you learn new skills, we want to adopt these skills. So, you know, you make new friends. I make a new friend in Canada. And, you know, that's how the world it is. You know, we are interconnected. And this is when we're looking now past years during the COVID, I said, people, the world become the flat. And what that means, from point A, from me to Sydney, to point B to you in Canada, we are connected, we are wired, right? So we are connected through the internet. So world become flat, we become accessible to anything and everything. And as again say, it doesn't happen every day to be with you on your podcast, and you're doing an extremely good job. I'm very, very happy. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Can you tell me more about the banner in the back? Like, can you explain that?
So yeah, recently I was honored that several years ago I was looking the way how to access the market. And I knew at the time I was just a new kid in the block, kid, you know, or adult, but kid. You don't know nobody. People have no credibility, you know. So the only way how I could show my clients how I do, it was to write the books. And when I started writing my first book, you know, I've been subject of the, you know, good laugh and, you know, great support, you know. This thing. Don't do it, Mario, because you're going to embarrass yourself. And as a life
voice,
yes. So like people told me, don't do it, you know what I mean? And regardless of this, so one person told me, just go for it, try to do it. So as I was publishing the technical books of investigations intelligence, a few years ago, I was being encouraged to write a book, Blood, Soccer, Soil, which is my personal journey through communism and first months in the war. So I spoke about my fears, about my obstacles, about talking to the God, you know what I mean, and all these things which not many people like to share, because when you come out of the war, everybody wants to be the hero. And I painted the picture about my experience in a very different light. And that's the fear, anxiety, uncertainty, you know, pain, everything else. And as I was writing this book, I was being told, Mario, why don't you become the brain for humanity because of your life experience and everything else? And I was like, yeah, that doesn't sit with me, right? Ego says do it, but your conscience says, is this really what you want? And as I was writing book and meeting new people as you are, who helped me in that road to publish this book to the proper publisher, I decided to become that ambassador and activist of humanity. So
amazing.
I losing my experience. You don't need anyone to be happy and successful, because after all, we are all decision makers on our life. So this is the banner behind me. You don't need anyone. As my podcast on Spotify, not successful, your was or your one. I'm still learning things. It is, but I always come back to people. And this is honest analysis. I come in from an environment which is very unforgivable. I come in from the family who has been very dysfunctional, like many other families. But my experience was a horrors of the war, horrors of losses and pain and everything else. And then now at this stage, that is late after the war, I realized, thanks to these people, that this happened to me for the reason. And people should know that whatever we're facing in life, we can overcome that obstacle. So that's the reason why this banner, you don't need anyone. So, yeah. But I have a question for you on your podcast. May I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
What is your podcast about? And who is the mic host? Today?
Well, podcast is called Super Entrepreneurs Podcast, so I'm sure you're aware of that part.
Yes.
So what we do is we interview entrepreneurs, self-employed people, leaders.
Yes.
And what we do is we bring awareness out about that, everyone that's in business, especially the ones that are very successful and doing well, they're just like me, you, anyone else.
Yes.
And the purpose of this is to bring awareness to people that if they're unhappy in their job, get out. If they're, if they're looking at self-employment or entrepreneurship, it's not as hard as you might make it out to be and stop yourself. So this show kind of brings that out, mindset stuff, what people went through, bring awareness that, hey, that's just like me, like get that aha moment, right? Like, that's just like me. Look at him now. He's owning like 400 units in real estate portfolio. Wow. Something that strikes the desire of some sort. And then, we lift that person up. And then if they need help, for example, in mindset and reprogram the internal world that you mentioned, the voice, right? To kind of, to bring some kind of space between the voice and you as who you truly are, right? As a human being, as a being, and bring that alignment with people through that. And then also, what I do is I'm a mentor, like I mentioned. So I mentor people on this entire process. And, I have other businesses. I have a startup that we're launching soon. But yeah, this podcast is more of a passion, more about bringing more and more awareness in the world. Really.
See, this is exactly, I expected that answer. And this is what I say. It's an honor to be in your podcast show.
Thank you.
Because regardless of your successes, your drive, and you created a purpose to others to be the voice. So being in Sydney 8:30 in the morning on Thursday morning and being your podcast, being that voice, it's what makes me happy. Hence the banner behind me. Because what I learned in my life, I truly believe that you can agree with me. I truly believe that we have all some skills which we need to live as a part of legacy, or as a part of knowledge, or train some other people and everything else. And, the world is full of surprises And I always come back to this point that life is always going to serve us what we really need at this very moment. And I never understood the struggle, but I always said to business people, doesn't matter how struggle it's real or imaginative it is, it's going to be challenging. And it's a wheel turning continuously. It never stops. It's once you reach a goal, I said to my clients, when we're doing the investigations, once when you investigate one thing, it's not over because it's going to come another one. But as long as we find the joy, and when I was driving this morning to be on your podcast, I was so excited, I was like a little girl, I was like a little girl.
Oh, man.
Because seriously, because as I say, we all can invent something, but we can't invent the host who's so successful like yourself. We can't invent a podcast like your one. And so, of course, I was driving this morning in argument with my son, who is, doing something else. And he was like, dude, the kids, they are like, it's different, the vocabulary and everything else. I said, Matteo, I'm going to be today with somebody very special. And he says to me, why is this so important to you? I say, you don't understand now because you have the different needs.
Yeah.
But for me, it's different reward, some type of reward today with you. Yes. So thank you.
You're welcome. Very welcome. It's all levels of awareness, right? Like your son, for example, my kids, they're at a different level of awareness, right? They don't, it may not make sense what we're doing. and as they grow older, as they increase that conscious awareness, and as they get, their awareness gets higher and higher, they're going to understand what this all about. Everything needs time, right? So it's great that, he has a dad like you, right? So it's going to help a lot. Yeah. So can you give me 3 top benefits of a company hiring you for growth, for their business?
The number one, they get, the impeccable customer service. I learned very early in the stages of my business.
I can tell.
I was being told by the business people I'm servicing even today. They told me, Mario, you are good to us as a last case, which means if my last case was bad, doesn't matter what I did before. Doesn't matter, you don't perform well. So customer service for me, it's one of the greatest things. And the stuff I'm employing today now, and I learned as well very early that I need to surround myself with the people who wants to work, who are enjoying to work. Mm-hmm. Second one, it's benefit. It is meeting expectations. So the clients, everybody has expectations. Nobody pays you just because you're beautiful or, you have the nice car and everything else. Client has expectations, and I always maintaining these expectations. If there exists opportunity to finish case earlier, I'll say to client, we can do earlier, cut the costs. Or if a client says to us, this is the case, I will say to client, if I see difficulties, please understand, if you want proper results, it's going to take longer. And I meet these expectations. And thirdly, it's a knowledge which is priceless. We continuously educating our clients. As much as they're educating us, we're educating them. And in my business, we are not police. We have no resources, logistics like police or once upon a time agency I used to be work. So we are private sector. We need to improvise and use every possible avenue to provide results, to find information, find a person, surveillance, due diligence, and all these things. So the 3 things there are, as I said, it's meet expectations, communications, and customer service. And then most importantly, third one, I put a third place because it's continuously, as all of them, they go in a circle. It is sharing the abundance of knowledge and experience we have with our clients. Because one day, we don't know what's going to happen, but if we pass this knowledge to the client, great.
Yes.
Continue using, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what would you feel is your inner superpower?
You're hearing the word resilience so much often, and in this discussion with this gentleman, who guided me as well, we have a discussion, and there was a heated discussion. I say you can't learn resilience in a classroom, and then he says to me, "How would you learn resilience?" I say I can talk about resilience today. after everything I was going through. But before I come to this today, being a resilient person, I gone through a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, a lot of anger, and everything else. But one thing, what kept me going, I'll give you the quick story. 2009 was a GFC happening in Australia. I lost a corporate job. My marriage was falling down. My kid was being diagnosed with epilepsy, and in that very moment, I wanted people to understand this, how difficult situation can be a beneficiary. In that very moment, we didn't have the money, and everything was falling apart around me. So what I did, I went in a we call the cash converters, the store where you exchange your goods for the money, right? Mm-hmm. And I sell my son the section limited edition of the Thomas the Tank. And in that very moment, my kid couldn't understand what's happening. So he wanted toys back, and I was crying, and the man was giving me money. And this very moment, I realized how low I went down. So it wasn't that moment which makes it just angry or sad, but actually finding me in a different aspect, which was, we're hearing a lot of this saying, be hungry. I say, don't be just hungry. You need to starve for something. When you're starving for something. So I was starving continuously inside of myself to chase my dreams, to make it better for my son, and to share my wealth, knowledge, abundant knowledge of investigation intelligence with my clients. So that was what kept me going. Starvation, not physical starvation, but starvation for being a happier person, giving more back to the life, my son and people around me. I was starving. So not just resilience, but being in a mode of starvation. Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. Excellent. So apologies for the very colorful explanation, but something breaks you to remakes you. And that very moment I was broken, but decided to remake myself. And the only way it's not to be happy just, for one day. I need to think life ahead. So that's what it is.
Yeah. And that, that hunger, you say, right, to that desire, that hunger.
Yeah.
I find that the results get a lot more, they get better and easier when you're operating from completeness compared to, the hunger and the forcefulness and the push for growth. It just creates a very frustrating journey. But when you operate from a place of completeness, like I'm good, like I'm happy, I'm doing amazing. I'm grateful for everything. Let's go.
Yes.
And then you start operating with a sense of urgency, like you want things to be done, but you are operating with calmness. And
I wish I met you
very beautiful.
10 years. Yeah, I wish I met you 10 years ago. And I always say to people, be careful what you wish for, and be careful very, very much who you're surrounding yourself. Yes. And as I said, like beginning, I believe that world owes me. And success is not guaranteed. Success doesn't come in overnight. Everybody believes that success is, just do these few steps, somebody says. You need to have the proper mentor like yourself. Yeah. You need to have the key objective. What do you want to achieve? I'm not ashamed to say how my life was very difficult because, one way or another, and, I'm seeing people around you and me and everywhere else. Everybody loves to talk about success. Man, tell me about your struggle. Because the only person who's going to struggle, and I can say that you have experienced in life so much. That's how we learn, how we're growing to the lessons of the life. But it's very important to have the good mentor. I always come back to think, if you have the good mentor, you're going to be successful. And I believed I was naive. I know everything. You don't know nothing. Even before I met you, I blame you about everything. You know what I mean? So.
I'll tell you. Yeah, it's the ego that gets us in trouble. I wasted so many years feeling I knew everything, and I just knew I'm going to do it. I'm going to do everything. And it's just without grabbing someone's hand and someone who's done it and get their help. It's just you find it becomes very trial and error, and our journey here on earth is not limited. That long, it's like a quick dream. So every minute counts. Money is just whatever. It's just a tool. But you need to get to that place quickly, as fast as possible. And you always get that from other people's experience, the fastest way. But
it's not a shame to ask for help. And as I say, I'm blessed enough today I be with you. As I said, I wish I met some people earlier in my life, but I truly believe that life served me what I need. And that's the lessons, painful lessons. And that's
No, definitely, Mario. Thank you so much. And you mentioned about your podcast and it's new, whatever. Reach out to me if you need any help or anything. Let me know.
Absolutely,
I could share some of my contacts and stuff, and get you. I'm very resourceful, so if you need any kind of help in any way, just reach out to me, message me, DM me, email me, whatever. And I'll see what I can do. And, again, I really, really am grateful that you took the time to come on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Mario.
You're welcome.
And I wish you an amazing 2022.
And I'm wishing you as well. And I'm imploring everybody, please come on this podcast, not because of me. And, this is a unique opportunity. You're going to learn something from the person. And as I said, I just screened this morning some of your social media because I tried to search more, and I was very surprised how it's beneficial to know you. So please,
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me as a guest on your podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm humble like this. I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much. But the one thing that comes to mind that as such a high level investigator, like a intelligence person, to say this, that means you must have researched me. So I'm grateful that
I did. But your green tick, yes, that's the correct. Yes,
But thanks again. Rest up, enjoy the rest of the day. Happy New Year when it's coming.
Thank you,
and be safe. And again, like I said, let's keep in touch.
Absolutely, we will. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.